welcome back. Today we're going to do something very different. Figured I'd pass along this little tidbit of information. I've got my 02 Harley sitting here, 14 years old, and close to 55,000 miles or a little better on it. And it just started in this last season. After a good hard ride, if you bring it back, it's got a drip or two underneath it. Now you can hold all your jokes about Harleys leaking. Most of my Japanese bikes leaked worse than this after 14 years and 50 some odd thousand miles. And from where the leak is coming from, and having worked on these guys before, I'm fairly certain it's either the primary seal's gone bad, or there's a couple of seals that are behind the primary pulley, primary drive belt pulley, that tend to go bad on these. And I'm not even sure. I'm going to put my finger over here by the leak, and I'm not even sure if you can see. Now this is after several hours of hard riding and sitting for an hour or two. There's one or two little dribbles there. Now what I've done is I opened up the primary housing the other day, and I put some dye in the oil, mixing in with the oil. And what I did is I bought a bottle of this at the local parts store. And you're not going to get this at your little boutique parts store. And by boutique parts store, I mean the guys that just like to sell you windshield wipers, spark plugs, stuff to polish your car, crap like that. You got to go to an honest-to-God automotive dealer and ask them for the tracer dye that you put into the crankcase. This is used for trucks, cars, motorcycles, anything you want to find where the oil leak's coming from. And it's about $8 for this little bottle, this little 1-ounce bottle. However, this treats an entire crankcase in a car, which is 4 to 5 quarts. The primary on the Harley Davidson here holds 1 quart of oil. The transmission, which is separate, holds 1 quart of oil, and then the engine holds 4 quarts of oil. I'm 99.999% sure it's not the engine leaking. When you get a leak in this area, it's either the seal that's on the back side of this primary housing where the shaft passes through to go to the clutch, or it's the seals that are on the transmission where the primary drive pulley is connected. Now I put some of this into the transmission the other day, and where the heck did I lay my light down? Hang on a second, I've misplaced my lamp. We found the lamp. I've got an ultraviolet flashlight here. Picked this thing up on eBay a while back. And it's just ultraviolet LEDs. Now you can get these that actually use a small fluorescent tube. These work fine for what we're going to do. What this dye is it will fluoresce very bright orange. And there you can see probably the very bright orange color that's on the top of this. I'm hoping that comes through without over flooding or overpowering the camera. So if you put that in the oil, you should be able to find the leak with the ultraviolet light very quickly. Now, like I say, the other day, I guess actually it's almost a week ago now, I put some dye into the primary and wrote it, and nothing is showing up. The spot of oil that's down here, as you can see, is fluorescing blue, not orange. So that kind of tells me that the leak is not here on the primary side, it's over on the transmission side. Let's go over there and take a quick look. If I can do this without knocking the camera all cattywampus, we'll take out the dipstick on the transmission and shine the light on the oil that's here, and look at that, it's blue colored. So the chances are the oil I'm seeing down underneath here came out of this gearbox and not out of the primary housing, which means it's going to be a lot more work to get to that seal. The one on the primary is not too bad, but I've got to take a lot more stuff apart to get at the one on the transmission. What I'm going to do is I'm going to squirt some of that dye in here and take it for a couple more rides and see if it turns orange. And if it does, then I know for certain it's the transmission leaking, and that's what I have to attack. And like I say, I can almost guarantee it's not the engine itself leaking, because the engine crankcase is a separate unit up here on the front, and it's separated from the transmission oil. There's three separate fluids in a Harley Davidson on the Big Twin. The older shovel head ones used to circulate the oil from the crankcase through the primary, but they no longer do that. The primary now has its own sealed chamber to hold a quart of oil. So I'm going to dump that in here. Let me run around the other side and grab the bottle. Right, we've squirted another 1/4 ounce of this into the gearbox or into the transmission, and you can see it's marked 1 ounce, 3/4, 1/2, 1/4. So one of these bottles for $8 will give you 4 treatments on something like this motorcycle. And again, this was designed for a full crankcase of oil in a car. You'd spray down your engine, clean it all off, dump this in the oil, drive it, and then quickly check it over with a ultraviolet light, and it'll very quickly tell you where the leaks are coming from. Often it's hard to tell if the whole underside of your engine's soaked with oil. And you might have multiple weeps all over the engine. So I'm going to ride this, let it mix in with the transmission oil, and I'm virtually certain at the end of a good long ride, after I've heated up that gearbox, the next drip that I see come out of here is going to show some signs of fluorescence. Just like you can see down there, hopefully, in the hole, there's that bright orange fluorescence right where I squirted it into the gearbox. In fact, the whole inside of the gearbox now is bright orange. We'll put the dipstick back in. We'll drive her for a couple of hours, and we'll take a look at what drips out of it and report back to you. But that's how you find the leak. Again, we'll continue this video after I've got some miles on this and let this stuff work through the gearbox and out through the seals. Okay, we've ridden the dog snot out of this thing. Brought it back good and hot and let it sit for about 15 or 20 minutes. And well, can I put this in shadow? I don't know if that's showing up or not. Try to get around the camera here. Can you see that bright fluorescent green? That's not the blue that it was before. That means that's the transmission seal leaking, which means that's going to get ignored until winter time, if I even bother with it then. Everybody knows Harleys like to mark their territory. They don't like to leak oil. They like to mark their territory. And again, before the Japanese crowd pipes up and starts making jokes, I rode Japanese bikes for years. Been left on the side of the road twice. Japanese motorcycles. One was a Honda, one was a Yamaha. My old shovel head was 20 years old. Never left me anywhere. I'm not saying stuff didn't rattle off it. I'm not saying it didn't develop leaks. It never left me stranded, however. And this bike's going on 14 years old. Never given me problem one. This is the first issue that's ever popped up with this bike. If it gets bad enough, I'll dig in there and change the seals, but I'll probably just ride it for now and keep an eye on the transmission level once a month. It's not leaking that much, and it's an awful lot of work to fix it. That'll be a winter project if I get around to it. I'm the Radio Mechanic. Thanks for stopping by. See you later.